Okay. Hey everybody, welcome to the stream. Thank you guys so much for joining today. And if you're in the chat room, let me know. Say hi. Tell me where you're from. That'd be really, really cool. And I will start here. Actually, it's so funny. I'm already getting questions because I created a thumbnail for this video. And let me see if I can find it real quickly. Where is it? Okay, so here, so I'm going to share my screen here for a second. Okay, so here's my YouTube channel, and you can see this logo right here. And I'm getting so many people confused. So here, I created this in Canva, but it said Vue plus Next.js live stream and then old way. So people are asking, how do you use Vue with Next.js? And you would be right. That would be very difficult to do, of course. But what I'm trying to say here is that we're going to go over Vue.js, and then we're also going to do some Next.js work. But you cannot use, there is no Next.js version of Vue. There is something called Nuxt.js, as Business of Technology pointed out, which allows you to add in all sorts of fun things like server-side rendering and static site generation to Vue. So sorry for the confusion for people who clicked on this live stream and were confused by this thumbnail. Really what I was trying to do is, from my last video, if you guys haven't checked it out already, my Vue 3.3 new DefineModel, I was taking the thumbnail from there, which I want to talk about today, and I was trying to be clever and change that thumbnail and then add in also we might be at, looking at some Next.js stuff. So, hey, hi, Jan Jazz, thank you for being here. Hi, Ryan. Hi, Zane. Hi, Burr. Looks like we got people from all around the world. And that's one thing I'm trying to do with these live streams is to do some of them in the morning, morning my time, which might be more afternoon other times. I know if I do it late afternoon my time, it's like middle of the night. It's probably impossible to get a perfect time for everyone, but I'm definitely trying to do these more often. Hey, Danny. Yeah, it was a little confusing. So I probably should have changed that thumbnail to it. So I thought I would start the stream today by talking about some content that people have been asking me about recently. And feel free to interrupt me at any time, ask questions, whatever you guys like to do. So first I'm going to talk about, for you guys who are into my Vue content, this video I just did, Vue 3.3. And by the way, I did do a short, how to add a sign-in with Google to your website. So check that out if you haven't already. It's kind of just a quick video, 1 minute long. It shows you how to jump into the Google console, developer console, how to set that all up, and how to start it working with Amplify. I'm going to create a part 2 for that video, but probably not until next week. All right, so I was going to answer some questions on this. So if you haven't seen, Evan Yu and the Vue team have been working so hard on new updates. And recently, I don't know how far, it was last week, they came up with this new define macro, which is going to be a way to, it's an easier way to use vModel on components to pass things and have two-way data binding. So I did a whole video on it, and we can talk a little bit more about that, but I wanted to answer some questions that were in the comments for that video for people that are interested in it, or at least kind of respond to some comments, because I think this is kind of interesting. Hey, Tech Rally. Check out Tech Rally on Twitter, by the way. Thanks for joining the live stream. You can see I am just jumping in here. Okay. So the first comment I kind of wanted to talk about, I think you guys can see it. Maybe I should make this bigger. The Vue use library has composable with a similar API. Use vModel, use vModels. That's what I've been using. But DefineModel would have been less boilerplatey. When I'm learning Vue, I especially didn't like that you had to just know about the model value, update model value convention. So that's the most commented or top voted comment on here. And so, yeah, I did know this. I just didn't include it in there, but VueUse has a very similar thing called use vModels, which is a better way of using vModel on components. Use vModels. I should play around with this, but yeah, it looks similar. And you can grab like foo and bar out of it, and then you can do direct manipulation of it. So normally props in Vue are read-only. You can't change them, and you get an error in the console. I think at this point you actually get an error, not just a warning. So to really have a two-way data binding, you can use something like use vModel, and it looks pretty good. There's also, if you look at Vue macros, which I don't have up, and I didn't go over this in the video for people that are interested, but if you look at Vue macros and then you look at this DefineModels with an S, so in the version that'll come out in Vue 3.3, the new macro, it's not gonna have an S, it's DefineModel. But there's also something called use, if I can find it. There's backwards compatibility with if you don't use the script setup. And so that's really nice to have too. And I thought it was called like use model, but I can't find it here. But I didn't put that in there as well. So if you are using not script setup, you can still use this DefineModels as well. And that will be inside the official version. Hey Bert, so are you moving into React or Vue? So I kind of answer this every live stream, but I will answer it again. I'm a huge Vue fan. I'm always going to be using Vue. I am also I also work at AWS, and I work specifically on Amplify. And Amplify tools work great with Vue, and then there's some features that only work with React. So I'm kind of doing both. So you're definitely seeing more React content on my YouTube channel, on these live streams and stuff like that. In the last live stream, if you didn't already see it, I started a new app. I'm creating a Linktree app using Amplify, and I'm going to work more on that too, probably at the end of this live stream. So Long Journey says he's a Vue developer. Yes, so I am a Vue developer, but I'm also do React. So I don't specifically Vue only. I definitely do some React as well. So here is more, so here's the vModel stuff. So that's good to know. So I'm going to kind of go through here and answer a few more and comment on a few more of these questions. Ooh, this is actually a huge upgrade. Always found the emit prop strategy to be a hassle. Yeah. So if I actually have the code here, I think. Let's see here. Yeah, so if you look at DefineModel, like how simple it is. So here is the old way to do it. Well, the way that you do it if you are passing like a vModel on a component. You have to have a prop. You have to define the prop, especially if you're using TypeScript for everything. You have this define emits, and then you have to emit it. So it's just a few more things you have to do, and you can't change the props directly. So you have to create a new variable. I guess I could have added that into this emit right here, but for clarity's sake, I created a new variable. So, and then you kind of have to know the syntax too, how when you're using this vModel, it creates this model value that you then have to know to do an update model value for it to work. So there's a lot of things that you just kind of have to know to be able to use this pattern. And with DefineModels or DefineModel, all you need to do is just use DefineModels. You can you can extract it out like this without having to worry about losing reactivity. So I think that in itself is a big win there to be able to do that. Because if you're in the React world, that's how they use props everywhere. Is they do it like this with I forget the word. I'm blanking on the word, but being able to take it out of the thing it's defining. If you guys know in the chat what I'm thinking of, tell me, because I am blanking on the word here. Cool. So destructuring, thank you, business and technology. That is the word I was looking for. Yes, you can destructure it out. And that is exactly the way that you do it. But if you know in Vue, you have to be really careful with destructuring with props because it can lose reactivity. But with React and every other framework out there, that's not a big deal. And if you define models, you can destructure without losing reactivity, which is a great thing to have. Hi, Eric, and anyone that reads this. Question from Junior. I tend to provide inject the ref state in this case in order to avoid using props and emits. Is there a disadvantage doing that? Hope you can reply. Thanks a lot. I tend to use provide inject the ref state in this case in order to avoid using props and emits. This is a pattern I've seen quite a few. I've done a few videos on provide and inject. So if you have like deeply nested components, a component tree with deeply nested, you can use provide at the top level, and then you can actually inject the top level, and then you can use provide in like a child component to grab the data out of. And that's certainly something you can do to pass variables, to pass data down from like parent to child components. Particularly, I like the pattern of using props and emits because it's really easy when you're doing testing to mock out, or when you're testing a component, just push in or just add whatever props you want to do the tests. If you start using like provide and inject everywhere, then you have to kind of mock out provide and inject, which can be like an extra step, maybe not as clean. It's not as clean. So I really like the idea of your components to be in a lot of ways stateless and kind of being dumb, and keeping like a lot of the logic in the higher level and in the components higher on the component tree, and then pass down logic down. And then I think it's easier to test. So that's the only kind of thought that I would have of using provide inject. You could also make the same argument. Why not just use a store, like use Pinya, and then just put all your stuff in Pinya? But then I think once again, it's like you're adding a bunch of complexity to something where you can just use props and just pass down props down of what you want. And you don't have to use emits either. You can, if you want to, you can pass functions down as props, and those work just as well. I mean, and that's basically how React and other frameworks do it. They don't have this concept of emitting values back up. Hey, Techni. So I got a couple questions in the chat. I'm just kind of reading right now. So as we can see, React provides a good framework with React Native. Okay, so there's a question like on Vue. React Native is amazing in the React ecosystem to create iOS and Android apps. Is there something equivalent on the Vue side? There used to be, there's a couple of ones that I've heard of. NativeScript, which allows you to use all your favorite JavaScript libraries to create mobile apps. I haven't really tried this too much, but I know some people have. The one I've heard most of is people use Quasar, because Quasar, the Vue library that is, it has mobile bindings to create mobile apps. And I've heard really good things about this. I tried it out in a video once or twice, and it worked. People said it was really neat. So I think under the hood it uses NativeScript. No, it uses Cordova or Capacitor under the hood. So you can create mobile apps with Quasar, and that's what I would recommend on the Vue side if people have questions on that. Yeah, in business technology is right. There's definitely trade-offs when you're thinking about using React Native or using something like Quasar to create native apps. You can kind of got to think what you're trying to do. All right. I am going to continue on answering some questions. Let's see, where were we? It'd be great if you upload more videos about the new features of version 3.3, like generic components or new methods like toValue. So I was trying to figure out all the new stuff with 3.3 that's coming out. And I know there's a roadmap, and Evan Hughes talked about it. And I know that he just tweeted today that people are asking him. He tweeted where is it? I know I saw it. he was talking about the new define components. Yeah, the SFC macros will support externally imported types. Also support for some quite advanced types. So there's things like this that are coming out, and I don't see them out yet in Vue 3.3 yet. Maybe they're doing alpha releases right now. And he says they're doing a beta release next week of this feature. So as these new features come out, I'll do videos on them if there's enough interest. And I think it's something that I can like pop out. The generic component stuff looks really interesting, and how you can use generics now in TypeScript and TypeScript generics with Vue components. I want to deep dive into it. I've never had a use case for that, so it's going to be harder to kind of come up with it. I'm going to have to play around with it. That's something I want to do, but I want to say, if you look at the Vue.js core GitHub repo, I was just looking the other day to try to see what is coming out. And if you look at their last few alpha releases and look at the changelogs, the alpha 9 was the big one recently where they introduced this define model and use model. That's the one I was thinking about before. That's the one you can use if you are not using the fset single file component script setup and you're using like the options API. I think you can use this use model. But looking at the changelog, I don't see like a whole bunch of these new features in here. Like there's definitely some changes to the compilers, some SFC changes, some type slot changes. And Alpha 6 had a bunch of bug fixes, but I don't see like the generics in here yet. So I don't think it's out yet. I guess, okay, so Alpha 6 introduced define component with generic support. And then there was some more generic support, but I have to kind of deep dive into it. I mean, this is pretty cutting edge stuff with the new generic stuff. To the 2 value I haven't heard of yet. So I need to kind of look into that. If anybody in the chat knows if generics has landed yet, let me know. If it is, it must be really, really new. All right, let's keep going. Thank you. Can you explain generic components? Yeah, definitely. This is on my list. Just the same question before. Do you have a tutorial of your boilerplate setup after you created the component VBase 3? I mean, yeah, I do have, I should respond to this, but I do have, in a previous video, I went over a couple of my favorite extensions for VS Code. And one of them was Sarah Drasner's extension pack, and that explained what this VBase 3 was. You know, one thing I don't like about it, if I kind of go back here, like if I create, let's see here, a new file, I know, my test.vue, and I use VBase, you can see here, this VBase 3 has this TS setup, but it always puts, so this time it didn't. I think the last time I did it, it put, oh no, it did. So I wanted this script setup always at the top. I don't know. This is kind of the style I like, is putting the script set at the top and then the template and then the style. So you can see that's what I did in these other ones. So I do not like the other style of putting the script after the template. I like putting the script at the top, and this snippets for the Sarah Drasner snippets doesn't have that. So that's something like I'm not loving. Maybe there is another snippet, or I can add my own. I think this one has the same issue. It doesn't quite have the same thing. Let's see, view init. I don't know. Let's see. View init. Yeah, it always puts the template at the top. I don't like that. So that's something I don't love about the snippets, but yeah, business technology. I like it better there. What are drawbacks to using DefineModel versus using emitters? I think at this point, the biggest issue between DefineModels and using emitters is just less boilerplate. It's a little simpler syntax, and you can change the props without having to worry and having to create like an extra variable and things like that. I think that's the biggest sense. I think most people probably should just use it once it comes out. if that's how you pass. And like that other commenter said, there's a lot of ways to pass information from child components, from parent components to child components. All right. So thank you, Eric. Nice explanation with both examples. I just wonder, why is it called define models and not define model? Isn't it just a single model? What about using my prop sync syntax? It's one of the biggest issues in my opinion and view. A component can only have a single model. This is actually not true. You can have multiple models. I guess the example is the one property, but you can have pass multiple properties. Yeah, so someone already answered this, but you can do multiple V models on a component. You don't have to have one. So just to be clear though, the view macros is called define models. This is what I used in the test. But with view 3.3, according to the changelog, it's going to be define model. And you can test this right now in the file view file playground. So that it is one, not both. And I haven't used the dots. This syntax I'm pretty sure is no longer used anymore. I think it's deprecated. I could be wrong on that. I don't use this syntax, the dot sync anymore. I'm pretty sure it's deprecated. But yeah, you can add multiple models, and you can actually have the name of the model in here. So if you put :price, then inside like view, if I go back to my app view file, then this model here, like test, blah, and then you pass in some value. I don't know, Erik. We'd have to kind of come up with a variable name here. But then inside the child one, it's instead of like, well, you would still use this model value, but I believe this model gets changed to like test value would be the name. So it would be like test value here. Because you can name them, if you have multiple ones, you can name them with this colon. So that's how you do that. Okay. Okay, I got another few questions. Any guess when 3.3 will ship? I don't know. Like, they're already in Alpha 9 now, so they're working hard on it. Next week, I'm sure it sounds like they're gonna have maybe more generic support, more things like that. So I would imagine they'll have most of it done by the end of, I would say either by probably mid-May to end of May, I'm guessing. I'm not sure how many alpha releases they did when they released 3.2. Looks like so they went all the way to beta 1. So they did I can't even see here. They did a lot of different releases in 3.2, but I'm not sure if they did a bunch of alpha releases first. Yeah, they did a beta 8.7. So let's see here. Like, if history repeats itself, they did a beta 8, which was on 8.7. And they started doing alphas. No, I guess they just did 8 betas on it. And their first beta was in 7.16. So they spent at least a whole month doing beta releases before they did a 3.2 release. So I imagine it's going to be something similar with 3.3. Like, they're going to do a bunch of more alpha. They said they are going to go to beta, so they'll probably do some beta releases now. So who knows? Probably, I would say by the mid-May, they'll have 3.3 will be out. Yeah. Please release me. All right. So for you guys who came in to watch more about Next.js or Amplify, I am getting there, but I just wanted to go through a few more of these comments because I know a lot of people are interested in this stuff. Which theme are you using? I am using VS Code's best theme ever, and this is the #1 question I get asked forever, and you can't even see it very well right now. It's called Synthwave 84. I am getting a little old of this. This theme is getting a little old for me since I've been using it for like literally 2 or 3 years now. And I've gotten so many questions on it. I am looking for another theme to move to, but it's fine for me right now. Everybody likes the glowiness of it. I think I am one of the people that single-handedly have made this a popular theme too, because I've answered the question millions of times on my videos, and I think I have one video that has like a 50,000 views or 100,000 views, and it's just literally me telling people about this theme. Definitely not for everybody though. I might be switching it up. Who knows? If you guys are listening to the chat, tell me what your favorite VS Code theme is. I'll read it out. The VTest theme. I have not played around with this theme. I didn't even know Anthony Fu made it. Or maybe I did know about this theme. Yes, I did know about this theme. I haven't tried it though. They have a light mode and dark mode. I'm a dark mode type of person. I do dark mode. Looks nice. Yeah, it does look really good. Man, this guy makes everything. Even has his own theme. I know he released two recently. Anthony released his VS Code settings. That was like a big deal. He like open sourced his VS Code settings, I remember. Some people are talking about Dracula. Yep, Dracula's a good one. I know Wes Boss's theme. A lot of people use that one. I know he just did a live stream recently too. They're going to be a part of Century now. His Cobalt VS Code 2, is this the one he created? Yeah. He created this years and years ago, like 6 years ago, and people still love this theme. That's one thing I want to try is like, could I create something that would last this long? People love to look at like this theme. He's did a good job. I tried at one time Wes Boss's I tried the open source version of Wes Boss's font that he uses. So he has the Wes Boss font, it's like a $300 font that he used to use all the time on all his videos. I can't remember what he like, and this was a few years ago. I think he may have changed it out. Yeah, Operator Mono, and he paid $200 for it. But there's literally an open source version of Operator Mono that looks almost exactly the same, and I was using that for a while. I do not remember what it's called though. What is it? Operator Mono open source. Anybody know about this? Oh, Firecode. Yeah. So was it Firecode? I think I was using Firecode for a while. What am I using now? I can't even remember. Font. Oh, I am using Firecode. Yeah, so I'm using Firecode. So I guess that's a similar font to Wes Boss's, I think. Or at least it has the same sort of ligatures. Yeah, Operator Mono ligatures. I like ligatures. I know some people don't, but that's like if you do equal, 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 it kind of combines it. Same thing if you go equal, equal, like not equal, equal, it puts kind of this cross through it. You can see also some of the other things that it does with these ligatures. I think it's fancy. I like it. You can also do the arrow function. Like, looks like an arrow function. Kind of combines it, adds it together. Okay, so I just answered that. This is Synthwave 84. Okay. Just taking a look at chat. All right. Let's just answer a few more questions. I assume this is a TypeScript only macro. Will this affect the programmers who do Vue 3 with pure JavaScript? No. So you don't have to use TypeScript to use this macro. I had to do a bunch of additional settings to get it working with define macros. I would like look through the repo, but no, this macro will work with whatever you're using JavaScript. If you're not using TypeScript though, I would ask you why you're not using TypeScript though, because it just makes things easier. I know sometimes you get weird typing issues, and that's the only bad thing, I guess, amongst other things with TypeScript, especially if you are using anywhere, and you're not like this tsconfig file. If you've never used TypeScript before, it can be a little intimidating, especially if you're going through the different compiler options and trying to figure out like, what does all these do? Like there's so many of them, and you kind of have to get used to using that. And look, like Vue has its own one that it just imports in that has its own TS config. And so you kind of have to get used to doing that. But I would say, yeah, use TypeScript. Thank you. Looks promising. What's the advantage of this compared to passing a reactive value from providing inject, modifying the child? So I think I kind of already answered that before. Yeah, I don't love using provide and inject. I think it's more of, it's not a hack, but it's just another tool in Vue's huge tool library. I think it's especially if you're using multiple values, I think vModel just makes more sense. And just for testing and everything, I would just use props. I like it. Don't have to make a commit change the model value. Great update. Thanks. Can we get one way and go with it? This is creating so many inconsistencies in teams. It feels like, while those are there to make it easier, but Vue's getting worse. Yeah, I mean, some people don't like change. Some people don't like more than one way to do things. I don't know. I think it just adds more flexibility. All right. I think that's most of the comments that was on this one. So I should respond to these and be like, listen, there is, if you want some more information, go ahead and watch this video. Cool. Is any other questions in the chat? So while I'm here. So question from Joaquin. If you have a deep tree, you can use inject provide. It's a pain passing props. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, like I said, yeah, if you have something deeply nested, what you kind of get is this prop drilling. So in other words, you end up having to pass a prop from one component to the other and one component to the other, and you kind of pass it down. There, I would almost say, though, you may want to look at, instead of using provide and inject, which certainly works, and also typing provide and inject is not always fun, is to also look at using composables. So see if you can like pull like whatever you're trying out into a composable, and then maybe import that in from the child component. Maybe that could be another thing. And then you still kind of have the problem when you're testing. You would have to then mock out the composable. But so that's another thing that you may want to think about. We've definitely gone over this problem in React. Like how do we make components that we don't have to do tons of prop drilling, but make them more stateless and easier to test? And we've kind of gone back and forth in that too, that same kind of idea. But I'm not saying you don't use provide and inject. It's certainly another tool you can use it. I'm just trying to think, like in certain circumstances, like, yeah, a deeply nested component, maybe, yeah, use provide and inject. Okay, let's see here. I got a couple other questions. Chakra and Zags. Zag.js. I've never heard of that. I don't know. Let's take a look at Zag.js. Zag.js. And by the way, I am trying to figure out a few more changes so we can... I'm trying to figure out a couple more updates to this stream so I can have chat on the screen. I'd love to have chat on the screen so that way I don't have to look to the right every time chat comes up. Okay. UI component powered by finite state machines. This is interesting. So we use XState a lot on my projects at AWS. And I like XState, but this seems like it might be another state machine. Every time I get on a live stream, people tell me about all these crazy libraries I haven't tried. I definitely want to try this. It looks like it has really cool, it looks like it has support for React, Vue, JSX, and single file components, and solid. Interesting. Yeah, you can use machine. So if you haven't seen, XState is the JavaScript state machine, and it has libraries for Vue as well. And it's pretty, I think this is the gold standard of state machine, JavaScript state machines and state charts. If you're looking to do this, to have like a finite state machine, it's kind of a different concept to wrap your head around when you first get into state machines, to like figure out how things get updated. But it's pretty slick when you get used to it, and how you kind of, there's definitely a finite way of how actions are supposed to be done, and mutations, and how you share data between everything. So, but I'll have to try out the Zags. This is really interesting. Yeah, so Marco said VModel is more like a shortcut. Yeah, you can think of it that way. Yeah, I think of it more as more than just a shortcut. I think it's more like an integral part of the library of how Vue works. It's something that pretty much you get taught from like day one in the docs. It's like, oh, you want to put an input on, you want to get the values from an input, then put a VModel. You want to pass values and keep two-way data binding between parent and child components. Use a VModel on a component. So VModel is really a syntactic sugar for adding a bind and then a emit from it. So you can take a look. Let's see, VModel syntactic sugar. I think this one will tell us. Yeah, so it's the same thing like using a vbind on a value and then doing like an at input for an event. So every time this event fires, it adds something and it changes the event.target.value and the value is bound to it. So it's basically syntactic sugar for this, and it's similar on components as well. But you know, you don't have to use it, of course. And some people, I think back in the day, people were talking about how maybe React popularized this as like where you never want to do two-way data binding at all, like ever, at least on like components. Like two-way data binding is bad. You should just have one way everywhere. And I don't agree with that. I think there's definitely some people still debating that two-way data binding argument. So you can look at people discussing if that's the best way to do it, because in React it's definitely different. Like there's no VModel on React side of doing it. You would have a controlled input and you would basically take the whatever event it is and then change the value. All right, let's see here. I get a couple more questions I can answer. So is Vue becoming like Angular in the old days? So I wasn't a part of Angular 1's days with the dirty checking and all the craziness in there. I think everything is definitely, every single technology out there, especially in the last few years, have gone through some really crazy changes. I mean, we all knew in 2018, 2019, when hooks became popular in React, when Vue kind of moved over from the options API to the composition API. And now Signals is becoming super popular, which is technically, I did a video on this, is in Vue already, but now Signals is in Solid and other frameworks, and Angular is now bringing Solid over, Signals over. So things are always changing. Some things feel like they're going back to where they were back in the old days. I mean, with how everything is no longer a single page application, everybody's focusing on static site generation and server-side rendering and incremental site regeneration and all that, which, by the way, Next supports that as well as Next. So it's an interesting topic. Eric, do you still use Vuex? I do. Well, let me repeat that. So Vuex is really kind of switched over. It was combined with the Pinia team. So Pinia is really what you should be using nowadays. And Vuex, I think if you even go to the Vuex GitHub, it says it's either deprecated or they are just recommending you just use Pinia. Yeah, so Pinia is now the default. It's been that way for probably over a year now. And so if you're asking if you should use Vuex or Pinia, I would definitely say use Pinia. Like there's no doubt about that. Just like if you're using Vue CLI, I would say don't use it, use Vite or the Vue create Vue app, which is the way to create a Vue app. But Pinia is just better, honestly. Like if you came back from the Vuex days and you had to deal with like doing mutations and also, they have mutations and actions. And then you're always thinking like, okay, when do I use a mutation? When do I use an action? What happens if it's async and not async? I think that confused people. And then sometimes you have like actions that call mutations. But if you go into, this is one of many things, obviously, differences. If you look at, for Pinia, all you have is actions. You don't have mutations any longer. So like that one thing is just worthwhile to move over to Pinya, I think, if you are using a store. And it's just kind of a little bit simpler to use, and it's more flexible. And of course it has composables and everything. But if I was using a really old app, I wouldn't. Hey, Kelvin. Yeah, Kelvin Omorshown. I should put a link in the chat. You can throw a link in the chat, Kelvin. We just did a live talk between both of us, which was really fun, where we just talked about Amplify. Mostly Amplify. A little bit of Vue, but some Amplify. So business technology, Vue 2 to Vue 3 is much smoother than Angular 1 to the rewrite. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So that's so many things have changed in the last 5 years. It's crazy. Like a few, several years ago, we were all talking about, Vue 2 and how easy in the options API, and then we moved to Vue 3, and it wasn't a perfect upgrade. I mean, I could talk about this for quite a while if we want to get into that. But the Vue 2 to Vue 3 upgrade was a little shaky, for sure. But it wasn't to the point where it was anything like Angular 1 versus Angular 2. Angular 2 was a complete 100% rewrite of Angular 1, and it brought in TypeScript, which, by the way, TypeScript before TypeScript was cool and hip like it is now, and everybody loves it, and how you can't create a React app without TypeScript. It was back in the day where people weren't sure about TypeScript. It may have been the day, what was that TypeScript competitor that React had? It was like people weren't sure if TypeScript was going to win out. And so that was like a big change for a lot of developers going from Angular 1 to Angular 2. But Vue 2 to Vue 3, much smoother. I would say the only shaky part was getting people used to single file components, script setup, composition API, which takes a little bit of different thought. But yeah, I agree. So would you rewrite an existing app from Vuex to Pinya? Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, that's a good point. So like if you have a new app, I would, almost no reason why not to use Pinya. And also almost no reason not to use Vue 3 and script setup, probably with TypeScript. I would 100% say nowadays. Unless for some reason you just love the options API, or you have like a weird library that only supports it or something. But existing apps, if you have Vuex, just stick with Vuex. Like, why not? If it's working, I mean, unless there's a specific issue that you need with Pinya, yeah, you can stick with Vuex. Let's see here. Every language has to be strict, like C or Pascal. Yeah, Sebastian, what do you mean by that? Tell me in the comments, in the chat. Let me know more about that. Okie doke. I mean, we can keep talking about Vue here if people have more questions about it. I can talk about it, but I did want to move on and play around with my app. So I've been creating in my last live stream. I've been looking at here, I'll close some of these windows. We might come back to it. Is this new app I'm trying to create? I'm trying to create a link tree app. So if you haven't seen, link trees are those links that you see on people's like Twitter profiles. They click on it and it shows a window. Kind of looks like this. If I can, it kind of looks like this. You get an option of a name of whatever link it is. So a lot of people do this. They'll put like their GitHub, their LinkedIn, their Twitter profile, their personal website, and whatever. And there's actually whole services that do this, which is pretty interesting. So my goal in these live streams, as I go through them, is to create a similar app where you can log in, you can put a list of links, and it'll create your own this link tree that you can then copy and paste and add into your own Twitter profile and stuff like that. So I'm kind of taking it slow, playing around with it, and my idea is to create it all with it's going to be created all with Amplify. So if we look right here, so it would be kind of some of the things we're thinking about with this app. How do I zoom in here? Zoom in, yeah. Is like one, you want to be able to log in and log out, obviously. We want it to be able to, once you log in, you want to be able to add links, delete links. We want to like a preview of what it's going to look like. And I'm not sure if that's going to be in a separate route or what, maybe on the same page. And then also you're going to be able to copy a URL. And that URL will be your like link tree. Cool. Yeah, Kelvin. Yeah, Kelvin's going to put on a Vue versus React versus Angular Twitter space. So yeah, check that out as well. Yeah. Copy URL. Yeah, so you can copy your URL and then it's going to be linked to. And I'm thinking like the URL would be, I haven't picked out a domain or anything. So like this is probably going to take a little bit, but it might be like, let's say it's Erik's Linktree / whatever the username is. Maybe they also have to choose a username, or maybe they just choose whatever name they want. So it could be like Erik. So linktree.com Erik. And maybe if there's so many domains out there, I might even try one like linktree.dev, or maybe I'll try like a new TLD that's not taken up /Erik. And then you can just copy and paste that everywhere. And then it should also be like mobile responsive. So like here is like long-term game plan of what we want to do. I am billing phobic of using AWS resources. Yeah, so I will say I have opinions on that. There is ways inside the AWS console to add alerts. Like inside here in this AWS console here, you can add alerts to your billing so you don't go past certain usage limits. But one thing I really like about Amplify is that we're going to be using serverless, on-demand technologies. Like we're going to use Lambda functions if that's needed. We're going to use hosting, Amplify hosting. And a lot of these things, maybe even storage. So a lot of these things are, you only get charged when you're being used. So unless you have a huge influx of traffic all at once, you're only going to get charged very little. And there's a pretty generous free tier plan on AWS if you haven't seen, which I'd highly recommend. If you guys are worried about AWS, check out their free plan. Like it's literally like 12 months free trial. You get 100, like if you're using EC2 instances, you get like 750 hours, which is per month, which is a ton. Which I wouldn't even use an EC2 instance for an app like this, because I'm just going to try all serverless, all on demand, which is like literally pennies per hour that you use on a lot of these things. And then with the free tier plan, you probably won't get charged anything. Of course, if you scale up to hundreds of thousands of millions of views a month, it would cost you money. But if you're kind of just playing around with a pet project, it is. And that's something I want to try to do, is I start creating apps on this channel during these live streams. If I could get actually even a fraction of people using it, it'd be cool. But I think the first thing, the big draw is just to show you guys how you would create something like this using AWS resources, especially Amplify. Yeah, I'm reading here. Yeah, so TypeScript definitely allows, okay, I see what you're saying. Oh, so you're saying, okay, Sebastian's saying that like TypeScript forces you to stick to strict type coding in which you have to declare everything, also types with JavaScript's ready to relax. Yeah, that's a good point. So there's definitely different types of languages out there that ones are like strictly typed. So you know how in JavaScript you can do const and let, or you can use you can use TypeScript and add types to everything, and you get the IntelliSense. But in other languages like C++ and Java, you already have built-in types that you use, and so you have a certain amount of strictness. And when things get compiled, you can find errors more quickly. So you're absolutely right there. If so business technology, I want to know if there's any third options until I flip the switch. Always free. Yeah, I mean, just depending on your usage, like there's very little on the billing you have to worry about. But yeah, let me know a little bit more of what you think about that. Okay, so we have a kind of an idea of what we have. So from last time, I was playing around with, and that's not the right one. Here it is, this link tree. Where did I get? So last time all I got was, I got it all set up, and inside my index.tsx file, I have this use authenticator. One thing too would be nice is to add in some nicer like linting rules and just make sure I'm not doing anything silly. Like right now, this is fine. So I have a logout button. You can log in, log out, and then all it shows is this hello there, hello username. So it would be fun to see, like, could I, so I'm kind of using the whole Amplify stack here. So if I'm looking at UI docs amplify.aws and I want to create some connected components, or actually a component, I'm going to use the React component library. Unfortunately, with Vue, we don't have the we don't have a component library, but with React and React Native, or with React right now, we do. You can see also they've added this recently. They have Swift now documentation nicely in here with a connected component for liveness. You also have Android just for liveness. That's something we could talk about later, is liveness. But we can see we have all these components, and let's play around with it and see. Like, I have an idea of how I want to do this. Let's see if I can create something similar just on the front page. So I have this app running right now, I believe. Localhost 3000. Do I already have that open in a different tab? Yeah, so here it is. So let's see if we can kind of play around with this and see if we can make it look like, add in a link tree, just to see if we can use it with the component library. Oh, so I have another question in the chat. Is there any plan to create AI-based projects in upcoming videos? Yes, absolutely. So if you haven't seen, if I go to my YouTube channel, which I was already on in a different tab here. Got too many tabs. If you go to my videos, I did start playing around with AI a little bit. I've done a short on it. I did a short on amazing ChatGPT tricks for developers, which I kind of talked a little bit about ChatGPT. And then I did this one, which I don't know why people didn't like this as much. I built a image generator using Next.js and AWS Amplify, probably because it was Next, not Vue. I could have done it with Vue too, Vue as well. But this one I used I think I used the Replicate API. Yeah, I used the replicate.com stable diffusion to create apps. It was a really cool app where you could just put in whatever prompt you want and we'd create it. And then it would list it in this, I have this form that you can put the negative prompts, and then it would show the images and you could save the images. So I thought it was a cool thing. I kind of got mixed results with this one, but I definitely want to play around with more AI related videos in the future. And what do you guys think of this? Like, what do you guys think of AI? Would you guys check out more AI videos? Let me know in the chat room, because I'm definitely thinking about it, doing more AI type stuff. Hi, for someone that just started, do you advise me to go React or Vue? That is a good question. I think I could probably spend a whole half hour talking about that. But what I'll say is that Vue is a great starting point of where to start when you are jumping into web development. It's really simple to use. I feel like it's easier to learn than learning React's system with JSX and the way it handles looping and having to learn map, reduce, and all that, and having to learn CSS and JS. And just bottom line, Vue is a great place to start to learn how to do doing web development. If you're looking for a job, there's more jobs in React out there, so keep that in mind. Definitely, but there's quite a few places using Vue too. I would say do both. If you can, learn React, learn Vue. You're in a great spot with both. Look at the jobs you're trying to apply for. If you're in an area that has a lot of React jobs, you may want to learn React. Also, Kelvin has been talking about this a lot. Check out his Twitter. Kelvin, on Twitter. If you look at his Twitter, he's been talking a lot about Vue lately, which I really appreciate. And he's been kind of answering those type of questions too. So he's at Dominus Kelvin _Kelvin. And he's been talking about that kind of Vue and React. I think he just had one. I think it was just like a few days ago. He was talking about the exact same topic, which is really cool. So yeah, Kelvin says go with Vue. Vue builds on the HTML you already know and has a massively better developer experience than React. Is this better to use headless CMS or should we create our own API? Yeah, with headless CMS. So I guess Burr, I don't know if I can answer your question on the stream here because I'm not sure exactly what you're trying to do. I would look into Next or Next if you're on the React side. But you can hook in with Next and Next. You can create dynamic. You can connect to whatever. I guess it just depends on what you want to do with your headless CMS. There's a lot of really great headless CMS options. You can even use WordPress as a headless CMS. I've used a handful of these different services throughout. I sometimes like to just create my own API and then use something like Next or Next to grab the data that I want and then generate all the pages. So that's a good way to do it. If you have like non-technical folks that need to make changes, then maybe looking at one of these headless CMS options is the way to go. I know, chat, I think you guys can answer better than me. And what kind of headless CMSs are out there and like kind of creating the Jamstack. Like Contentful is pretty popular, Storyblock. Yeah, business technology has a good point. Like Storybook, Supabase, and other tools tend to support React first. Vue comes in another cycle. If you're looking strictly at the ecosystem, like a lot of tools, a lot of companies do React first. So like even AWS Amplify, like if you look at our documentation, React has pretty much the most number of like features that we support. And that's just literally because we get more downloads for React than anything else, which is fine. But Vue is definitely up there. But if we like look at, let's see, NPM trends, and then we look at something like our library. So I at AWS Amplify like UI React. If you look at our UI React library here, it's getting around, I don't know, 130,000 downloads a week, which is, by the way, up from this time last year, which is really good. And then if you look at Vue, it's only getting about 15,000 downloads, which it's actually a little down from last year. I think this is also, we had a little bump from 2 years ago because we rewrote the library. So you could see here that like we just have a lot more people downloading the React version. So in that case, we do have a lot more features for React, but we also support Vue. And one thing we're trying to do is add more feature for Vue so more people use the Vue library. So just keep that in mind too, that depending on what third-party library, whatever you're using, there may be more features for that for React than Vue. I wonder see what Angular is right now. They're about the same. See, Angular is always like a little bit lower than Vue in our, at least for UI a library for us. Gosh, I bet you Tailwind is like way higher than both of our libraries. Yeah. We're like a blip compared to how many downloads Tailwind gets a month. 5.5 million. Okay. I got a couple more questions here. I was going to dive into a little bit more into this app I'm creating, but I got time. I could probably chat more, answer more questions in chat. Probably wouldn't be a big deal. Okay. So what do you think of Nux 3 versus Next 13? I think they're both awesome. Like Nuxt is an amazing framework. Nuxt kind of started off slow. I think the whole Vue 3 migration started slow, but it's caught up with all the features they've been pushing out. It's world class, definitely, as it says, trusted by world class companies. I think Next still, just because the sheer popularity and all the things they're doing and how many amazing developers are going over there, I see they have a lot of momentum going. So they're both great frameworks. I think Next is definitely pushing, and Vercel in general is pushing the world of web development. But they're both good. Is it possible to use Vue with Next? So no, not that I know of. Next is built on React. What do you think of mobile iOS native development? We kind of talked about this earlier in the stream. People were asking like what I thought about React Native and what we would use on the Vue side. I was talking a little about Cordova, NativeScript, Quasar has great updates for it. Great updates for Vue. So if you're wanting to use Vue, I would look at Quasar for mobile development. I think you can't beat iOS Swift development, but there's no doubt that React Native is really awesome. I think React Native also kind of peaked a little bit a couple of years ago. I don't think it's quite as popular as it was, but it's still a great way to create native mobile iOS apps and Android. Okay. Why use Amplify? Yeah, that's a good question. So I work for AWS, so I talk about this all the time. So Amplify, and the reason I'm using it, it's a set of tools to make it easier to create full stack websites. So one thing if you're using AWS architecture, and even if you're not using AWS, there's a lot of really neat AWS features that you probably want to use in your app. You probably want to have some sort of back end, and probably some serverless back end. So we have integrations with Lambda. You probably want to have some way to authorize your application so only certain users can go in, and you want to authenticate them before they come in. So there's a whole authentication library, and there's authentication components that you can use. There's hosting. You probably want to host your app somewhere. We have Amplify hosting. You probably want to connect to storage. There's a whole storage category. And if you're not super tech savvy, or you want to create, if you're like a Figma user, we have a whole Figma to code version. We have a UI components library. So there's a lot of pieces to the Amplify ecosystem, and the way you kind of stitch it all together is with our libraries and our features that just make it really easy for a front-end developer to create a full stack website without having to be an expert in provisioning, in architecture, in everything like that. So you don't have to know how to write infrastructure as code to use Amplify. We'll generate it for you. But if you are an expert, you can eject out of it and then write your own CDK scripts or Terraform scripts to do whatever you want to do with our platform, connect to your own AWS services. So we have the flexibility there. And it's really not, people sometimes get Amplify confused and think it's just like a scaffolding tool or just a tool to set up your application real quickly and it doesn't scale. But we have clients from enterprises all the way down to beginners using Amplify. So it's really not just for, or small businesses that is, it's not just for like a quick POC work. It's actually a full stack application for many different use cases. I hope that answers it. I kind of went on there a little bit. So I guess I can keep answering questions. What do you think of Supabase? So Supabase, I have not used Supabase. So this is kind of the Firebase alternative. So there's between Firebase and Supabase, their Amplify has something similar. It's called Data Store, I guess would be the analogy to it. And so if you look at Data Store, if you look in libraries, Data Store, so it's way of like creating data, and it's stored offline too. So if your app goes offline, it's available as well. It also has like a subscription, so it persists. If the data on the server changes, it automatically updates. So it has like some of those features for Firebase. It's also connected to a GraphQL backend. It's a managed GraphQL backend that we call AppSync. And so I really like it. It's not perfect, but this is sort of what this is what we have on the Amplify side. And if you look here, and I think I can still show it in, you can, like if I go to this data tab here, I can create my whole model, like a whole model. And that's what I was going to show in this demo is in this app, as I'm going to create a new table. And this actually connects to a DynamoDB table in the backend of AWS. And then I can use Data Store to automatically update data as this data changes. So I can create a data model here, then go to my user management and put data inside of it. This is just one of many ways you can add data to it. And then it would automatically show up. And Data Store, and I'm not an expert in Firebase. I know it has similar features and it has a similar kind of database management. But that's what it is. I think it's really, Data Store is pretty flexible. It has idiomatic persistence, and you can write schemas. You can, instead of using that studio that I just showed you here, you can also just write it inside here. You can write the schemas exactly what you want. And then you can even generate TypeScript code from it. There's a lot to it. That's a big question. Yeah, I'll add some links to this stuff here. Here, I'll add it to the chat room. If I can copy and paste right. Oops, that's not the right one. That's the link to here. Let's see here. Yeah, that's the link to Data Store. You guys are interested in it. And we'll be using a little bit of that in this link tree that I wanted to create. All right. Let's you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, guys have questions, feel free to ask in the chat room. I'll be answering as I kind of play around here. I'll probably be wrapping up here soon. So I'm kind of getting hungry. But yeah, so where was I? I was at, these are all great questions though. So I think the last thing we're going to look at, so I have link trees open twice here, is how would I go in and do this first thing, add links, delete links, but I want to preview what it's going to look like. So I think I'm going to kind of start with step 3 and create a page that sort of looks like this in Next. And I got to bring up the right page here. I wonder if I should just like create a new page. So I already created a links one. Let's see here. If I go back here to links, and there it is, hello world 1, 2, 3. I wonder if I can move this over so I can kind of play around with it. Let's see here. I know I can kind of target it, but I don't want to. I just want to move it on exactly where I want it. Okay. Let's see here. So this is JSX. So everybody that was listening to Vue before, we're going to do some JSX work. But so you have a heading hello world. I don't know. Let's do this. Let's move this heading here, and we'll call this, I don't know, link. and I have very clicky keyboard. I'm using a Corsair keyboard. We'll call links. And then inside here, let's just create some buttons. And what would these buttons look like? So they're pretty much buttons that'll have text on them. So let's do Twitter. And let's do, since we're using Amplify, we're gonna use Amplify's library. And we'll do Twitter, Facebook, and I don't know, LinkedIn. What else do we have here? If we look at our dribble here of this document. Yeah. Well, they have LinkedIn. They have the links down here, but I guess this could be like, we'll just assume these are someone's website. And we'll do LinkedIn, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and on our homepage. So we add those in. Next.js will refresh. I'm also using Windows Subsystem for Linux, so that's a little bit of what I'm doing here. So obviously that looks not quite right. I wonder if I should put the heading at the top, and then I'll use flex. We'll use flex. And this is just a component, a primitive. And then if we do this, I think that's going to do that. So I'm going to add a flex direction column. So I think I can do direction. And then we'll do column. Okay. And maybe we'll have this whole, I'm thinking like this whole thing will be surrounded in a div. So instead of having a div, we'll make this a view. And a view is like a primitive inside the UI view component library that's similar to this. Or maybe, I wonder if should I put this in like in a flex container or a grid container? Maybe I'll just do it like this. I wonder if I could do margin. Can I do a margin? No. Style. Margins 0 auto. No, you know, maybe I will do a flex here. Kind of thinking out loud. Because I just want this. Maybe I can do another flex within a flex container. And then I'll do direction column here. And then align items center. Okay. And then I don't love that. I want to do width. Can I do 100%? Or maybe I'll do like a max width of it. Let's see here. Sometimes I just play around with this in here. I guess I could have also just aligned center what I was trying to do. So this is the width here. And this is width here. Oh, I see. Yeah. So each button is a certain width. So I could add a class onto each one of these buttons to make it a certain width. Or I can add in the style prop here. Let's see. I wonder if we make it like 200 pixels. Okay. Yeah, something like this. I mean, it's nothing special here. Because I guess this is taking up the size of the container. So one of them's 200, so they're all becoming 200 in the width. I guess we could make, they're already buttons, but we could play around with the color of them. We have variations, so I could do variation. And we have destruct link menu. Let's see what the defaults are. Menu. Didn't change anything. Oh, that added it like a menu. I think primary is going to make it like that purple color. Warning. It makes it kind of like red. What does link look like? Link kind of makes it look like a link. What is destructive? Oh, because it's red. So I think we can create our own variation, I think. So we can do warning here. But I don't know. Let's see here. If I go into my... So since I'm using Amplify, I have a theme object. And right now I set up this primary. Can I add my own? I don't even remember. I don't think you can. But I can change like destructive or another one of these. So primary, this is the primary color, but I wonder if I put in link. So I can override what a link looks like. So I can make the color. If I wanted to make it look like this, maybe I put, so the background color is white. Maybe I make this value and then like make it blue. Background color, value, and I'll make this white. And then I got border, color, value, black. So now if I go back to my index, links index, if I put variation link, and it refreshes. Okay, so it looks like it's still over, it made the color white. Yeah, so Gamer Never Sleeps, I did put in the, I put in to the thumbnail Vue plus Next.js, but obviously you can't use Next.js with Vue that way. I would just meant it as kind of a funny thing because I'm doing React Next.js in this live stream here, but but in fact I also did Vue earlier, so I'm just doing Vue and Next, but it wasn't a very good way to do that. Sorry. So I wonder if the theme here, I got border color black, but I got rid of the border. I wonder if it's, I mean, I can't override that in the theme. Here's the button. I have border width. Oh, I bet you it's the border width that I need to change. Let's see here. Border width. Value 1 pixel. What did that work? There we go. Okay, so now I have links. Okay, again, my hover event is different. So now I have a blue, I have a black background. I guess if I want to look more like this, I'd want a blue on white, but then blue all around. Wonder if we could do something like this. We'll go index. You know, I do not like the way this is named because I don't like this. I wonder if we could change this around because now every time I search for index, I get 2 of them. So instead of calling this links in index.tsx, can I call it something else? Is this my first live? This is my second or third live stream. So if you go to the live tab, you can see all the live streams I've done. Yes, yeah, Gamer Never Sleeps. Sorry for the confusion. Definitely next time I do a live stream, I won't put, I'll make that clear. You cannot put Vue in Next.js that I know of, but which is good, Vue or Next. Both are great. Both are great. I will say unequivocally, they're both good. I'm using Next.js right now, but I just spent like the last 45 minutes talking about Vue. So I wonder if instead of doing the folder structure like this, because now I have two index.tsx, and that really is not fun. If I could, I'm going to look at something real quickly with Next.js pages folder. I'm looking at the API real quickly. I haven't changed to the source, or I haven't changed to the new folder structure. So I'm still using source pages. But let's see here, routing. So here's the basic routing, pages, index, JS nested routes. Yeah, so that's how you do nested routes. And you can do dynamic segments, and then you can link through pages through the link tag. But what I was wondering is, okay, I don't love this. I don't love how you have to go link/index. So if I just move this file and created a links.tsx, and then I moved this code over, I think it's going to work exactly the same page, exactly the same way, right? And then I'll add that to links. And then I can just delete this. Delete permanently. Okay. So now if I go back to my router, and refreshes, I might have to stop and restart the app. Oh, okay, it's working still. All right. I don't have any errors in my console. Okay. So I wonder, and then now I can go links.tsx. I like that a little better. So here I can this flex direction. I'm just using the style props. Obviously, I probably put this in a class later, but if I want to add in a background color, let me, TypeScript is thinking. What is happening here? Oh, let me reload the window. Sometimes, let me restart the TS server. Sometimes when I move stuff, I have to restart it. So if I go background, can I do background color as a style drop? Flex, align, head align items, width. Do I have justify? Yeah, I can do justify, center, and then I guess I'll just add a style tag, and I'll do background color blue. Okay, very ugly. Justify, we don't need this right now. So maybe you do like a max width or maybe a min width. Okay, min width of 400 pixels. Maybe a max width of 400 pixels. Okay, now it's gotten here. Oh, I see, because I put width 100% here. Just kind of playing around with styles here. See what I like. Wonder if I do padding. Can I do padding? 1 rem. And then okay. Oh yeah, that looks different now. 2 rem maybe? Three rem? What does this look like? Oh, I think this is too small. So 300 pixels. Okay. 250. Okay, what if we do that? What does it look like? Because, okay, I see. Then that gets there. Maybe I'll just do a width of 275 pixels. I'm going to do a margin 0 auto. Yeah, so now it's in the middle. And then we'll do a radius, border radius of, what does 1 rem look like? Yeah, okay, so now that looks way nicer. And blue is way too dark. Here, let's add this variation link to everything. Variation link. Okay, that looks a little bit better. This heading, this link's kind of, it's not quite in. Okay, so we could do white text, it'd probably be better. For this heading, color, white. Okay, I kind of like that. It's looking a little bit more what I want it to look like. Hover effects are probably not quite right. Then we have some other text. So underneath this heading, we can add in text. And this text, oops, we can add it in to here. And then this text could be, I don't know, your dedicated accounting team. It could be like, text could be your program with Erik links. And then we do color white here as well. We don't really need these brackets. Okay. Like I'm sort of starting to see like how this would work. I guess you would have a logo at the top, then the text. And then you can even have like a couple of icons down here. But like, we kind of got something here. I guess we could add like a logo at the top. Maybe we'll do a circle. Well, let's add in a view. And then in the view, I wonder if we can just make it width 200 pixels. And then color white, height 200 pixels. We'll do background color actually. Background color. That's way too big. Let's do 50 pixels. And then, okay, probably even bigger, maybe 75. If you guys have any questions in chat, just let me know. I'm just kind of playing around with this. I'll do one more thing here. I'll do border radius. And we'll make it, let's see here, 50%. There we go. So now we have a logo. That's just a circle. But I guess we would have some text in here too. I could probably add text to this. Hello. Maybe we do color white. Actually, you do want it black. Purple. Purple. And then we can then maybe even like absolutely position inside there some values. Yeah, the user would change the link tree background. But for right now, I'm just playing around with like getting something up here. And then we can play around with like the design, probably the last part of what we'd want to do and to create it. I wonder if we would want to like create a view inside here. And we could put display relative here. And then we'd absolutely position this. Is it position? Yeah, probably. Wait, position absolute. What would that look like? Here, this is where I go into CSS and just do it from here. This would be easier. So here, let's say display. No, I want to do position relatives. There we go. Then this one is position, yeah, absolute. And so top 0, bottom 0. I wonder if I do top 50%. Left 50%. I'm just kind of playing around here. So I could like just, or is it negative? I can't remember. Like, is it negative 50%? Oh, that'll get it above it. Top 30%, left. I can even do something like that. Just absolutely position it. I don't know. Just playing around with this. I could do top 33, left 25. So this would be, this is not display. This is position relative, position absolute, and then you do top 33% and then left 25%. Let's see if that looks okay. Okay, that looks okay. And I probably don't even need to use view here. I'd probably use a text. Text. Logo. Okay. And then color equals purple. And I definitely have to refactor this, so this is not all here, but all right. I think this is like a good start. You know, it's definitely not pixel perfect with here, but it's definitely like I could see something like this working, and I think I have this zoomed in too. And so if I can get someone to generate this and have this work correctly, this would be really good to have. Is this okay? Yeah, this is fine. All right, so I think that's it for today. This was a long one. We're an hour and 40 minutes in, but thanks for all the questions in the first half. I'll be back on probably, if not next week, the week after. And I'm working on a video right now. So thanks, everybody. Take care.